Hello and welcome to Real Life, Real Leaders. Today we have one of my fellow network members, Christianne Kerns. And Chris is an attorney in Los Angeles area. She's the managing partner of Hahn Hahn, and she's won many awards. One that stood out to me was she's been on the list for the most influential female lawyers in Los Angeles, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So she's had quite a career, and I'm so excited to share her story. Welcome to the program, Chris.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Nice to be here.
Great. So one of the things I just noticed about your career, so you're currently on the board, on several boards, I think. Is that correct? And then and one of them that was standing out that I know you were particularly proud of was 5 Acres. What is 5 Acres?
Oh, thank you for asking. 5 Acres is an amazing institution. It's an organization here in Pasadena based, and it serves clients throughout 5 counties in Los Angeles area, LA and several other counties. It has been around for 120 years, I want to say, and it serves children. It started out as an orphanage, and now they've got various service lines working with children in the foster system and in adoption, mostly in Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County has a huge problem with foster children. We have over 20,000 children in the county alone in foster.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's horrific, but 5 Acres has been doing an incredible job with the children. And one of the things I'm most proud about is they are also now working with families that are at risk so that they learn how to keep their children in the family, as opposed to, having them taken and put into the foster system, because once a child's in the foster system, it's just really not a good outlook for them. So I'm very proud. I was chair for 2 years, and I've been in various roles on the board for many years, and it's been a good experience.
What a great organization. It seems like I've heard of it, which is part of the reason I wanted to ask about it.
Oh, okay.
What are the other boards that you're on currently?
Currently, I'm on an advisory board through Pepperdine University. And I'm also on a board for the Hastings Foundation, and that is truly a foundation. It has funded the Hastings Center for Pulmonary Research at USC Keck Hospital and Medical School. They do research in pulmonary diseases, and we've been involved in the institute itself as well as funding various research projects.
That's great. Yeah, I remember years ago I was thinking about getting a PhD, which I never did. But I was asking around, like which one, is there any credible organization, this is a long time ago, university, that that I could do partially online? And Pepperdine was the one that kept coming up. So I know that's a really great university, but I didn't do it. Anyway, the reason I'm asking about boards is obviously because of our affiliation through the network, for the women who went through the Harvard Women on Boards program, and all of us working together to advance the state of women on boards. But you've also had a really amazing career, and now you're managing partner of a law firm. And so we'd love to hear your story. Tell us, where are you from? How did you get into this? And how did you end up where you are?
That's a good question. I don't think I have a traditional path. I have a path it's mine, so it's normal. But I am a first generation graduate from college. My extended family, there are other people that went to college, but not in my family. My parents didn't have college degrees. I put myself through college. I graduated from college and took a business position in marketing for a big national company, AT&T, a subsidiary of AT&T at that point, and thought, I want something a little different, so I decided to go to law school. I was fortunate to be accepted to University of Southern California for law school, and put myself through that. That was tough.
That is tough, right? Going to school full time. Do you have to work full time, same as well?
They didn't allow you to work the first year, so I had I lived on my savings and student loans.
Yeah.
But after that, I was able to work. And that was not easy. But interestingly, going into the law without having anybody to kind of coach and mentor you, it's a tough road. I didn't have any help, but I was lucky. I got a very strong position coming out of law school with a big firm, and got very good training. And I was really fortunate to have several very caring mentors, older gentlemen that took me under their wings. And because of them, I really was able to do well in my career. I was married, and that was tough on the marriage, but we managed it. But then I had 2 children, and by the time my second came around, it was clear that the big firm wasn't going to work.
Yes, and let's talk about that, because big firm, I mean, first of all, congratulations for getting into one right out of college. You must have had really good grades.
But that's kind of how they do it. It's kind of weird.
Yes, that's how they do it. And once you get in there, it's really tough at first. I mean, maybe always, but I know it's sort of like being a medical resident or something in the beginning, isn't it?
It's very tough. I remember one year I was in the office on Christmas Day, working nights and weekends around the clock for many, many years. I was with the big firm for 8 years. Mm-hmm. I became partner, but at the same time I became partner was that, soon after I'd got back after maternity leave for my second child, and getting back into it after it just, for me, with one child, I could kind of keep it going, but with 2 children, I couldn't keep it going. I at the big firm, you're working 70, 80, 90 hours a week.
Yes.
And to me, that was incompatible with being a mother of little children. Some moms are able to do it, and it's such a personal decision. It was a tough one. And even for many years after I made the decision, I always wondered, did I do the right thing? But you know what? I never regret having done that for my children. And quite frankly, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than I am now anyway. So.
Right. No, and I understand. And I actually think, there are very few jobs that require the kind of hours that yours did, except for like big law firms, medical residents, those are the ones that require those kind of hours. But I can't imagine, having to put in that kind of hours and try to be the mom to 2 children. I mean, I was really fortunate when my kids were young. I had a home office. So if I wasn't on the road, I was here.
That was nice.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. And at the time, law firms, if you were a part-time lawyer, you were definitely second or third class citizen.
Right.
You were getting no respect. We had, as I recall at the big firm, we had 2 women lawyers that were part-time, and they didn't have any respect. And it was really not right. It was really unfair.
It is really unfair. Has it changed?
It has a little bit. I'm understanding the bigger firms have now understood that they need to provide more flexibility for their younger lawyers. And it's not just for females. I mean, there are, fathers and other people that, besides just for parenting reasons, need a little more flexibility. So they're a little bit doing that. Whether that translates into a partnership track, I don't know. I think typically it wouldn't. The other problem with the law as a profession, Bonnie, is you can't realistically step out for any period of time. For instance, if I'm a nurse or I'm a teacher, I can stop for a few years and be a mom and then get back into it. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to get back into law if you step out for any period of time. And that's a difficult thing for this.
Is that because you lose your skills, or just because you've lost sort of the momentum on the path?
Both of those. And there are so many other qualified lawyers, they feel that you didn't have that dedication. Mm-hmm. Why would I hire somebody that hasn't been working for 2 years or hasn't been doing the legal work for 2 years? Things evolve, and they're looking for people who are willing to just work around the clock.
Yes, they are. Today's podcast is brought to you by EDA and Women Execs on Boards Network. EDA, formerly known as Executive Development Associates, provides leadership development for the top 5% of your organization with custom executive programs, C-suite coaching, succession planning, and more. For more information, please visit www.executivedevelopment.com. And Women Execs on Boards is a network of high-level and often high-profile women who have all completed governance education at Harvard Business School and who are working together to collectively advance the state of women on boards and in senior executive positions. We have a new inspirational leadership book about courage, adaptability, resiliency, sense-making, and vulnerability, all shared through the stories and the struggles of 36 of our women leaders. The book is called The Courage to Advance and will be available in North America on September 14th and in the rest of the world in December of 2021. You can pre-order an individual copy at Amazon.com, or for multiple books for your book clubs or other groups, please go to www.thecouragetoadvance.com. So, were you from LA originally?
I was born in Los Angeles, so yes.
All
yes.
right. And so then you go out to take care of your children, and then how did you get back in the workforce?
So I worked about part-time for a little bit. I worked with a startup, and then I went to a small firm. It was an entertainment firm in West LA representing talent, so actors, directors, producers, doing my kind of work, which was more business and real estate and finance work for entertainment clients. So it was an entertainment firm that I was sort of on the side doing other things for these entertainment clients. And that actually was interesting because it gave me a whole new perspective on being a lawyer. When you're at a big firm, Bonnie, you're working with mid to senior level executives at big multinational companies, and they don't really care about the deal. You're just working the deals, right? You're just putting the deals together and you're closing them. As long as you close them without a problem, everything's good. At the small entertainment firm, I learned how to talk to people. I learned how to communicate in a way that they understood. I learned how to translate complicated legal concepts into something that people can understand and walk them through transactions, walk them through problems. The other thing I learned was that no is not an answer. If the client wants to do something and the answer is no, you have to come up with an alternative that is a yes. So
yeah. That's sort of how we are. We're like, we never say no.
Yeah. Right.
Or rarely.
But that was in Century City, which was a bit of a hike for me from Pasadena. We were in Pasadena, and so I got a call from a very, very old law firm from Pasadena that was never hiring lawyers, so I never thought that was possible. But they called me at one point and said, "Would you be interested in talking to us?" I thought, is that a trick question? Yes. Anyway, so that was good. So I've been now with Hahn Hahn, which is a Pasadena firm, for about 16 years, and it's a great place for me.
And now you're managing partner. So what does that mean?
So managing partner would be CEO in another organization. It's a different name because we are a partnership. As just like any partnership, you're made up of a collection of partners. And so I'm basically running the firm. I'm in charge of all partnership issues, sort of herding the partners and managing the process, having meetings and votes on lots of different things. I supervise the office administrator, office director. She's in charge of all the staff. So we're doing HR things, we're doing finance and accounting issues, we're doing, insurance, we're doing whatever is going on at the firm. So I'm sort of spearheading all that.
Right. And so, as you look back at your career to get to this place where you've won all these awards and, you're getting recognized in your field, what are some of the things that you felt like maybe made you stand out? And then I want to also get into after that to talk about maybe some of the things that were hard and sort of a setback. So let's just start with, what do you feel like made you stand out as an attorney and ultimately become a leader of attorneys?
That's a good question. I think in law, intelligence is celebrated, which is good. So I get things, right? I understand.
Quick.
So that helped.
Yes.
I am really willing to work hard and roll up my sleeves. And that's another thing that really you need for the legal profession. And then there was a bit of luck. Like I mentioned earlier, I had some early mentors that really said, come on, we're going to do it this way. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to take you to this meeting. I'm going to put you on this deal. I'm going to teach you how to manage these kinds of matters. And I think those three things were really important.
Yeah. And you just talking about your mentors too. I think I heard you say that they were men. Is that correct?
There were no women partners.
There were no women. Well, and I think that's important because, sometimes we talk about the women's issues and a lot of times there are men who are helping to develop and champion women. And so it's great.
Absolutely. I was fortunate and I recognize that. And I was very appreciative even at the time. I have to say though, at the same firm, when I first graduated from law school, same firm, I started out in a smaller office in Newport Beach. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't the same culture. It was a different vibe. And I remember even at that young age, I was saying, we've already fought the fight. Why am I being treated as a woman?
Right.
And I don't really prefer to be here. So I moved. The firm allowed me to move to a big downtown LA office, which was much more open to women. And that's where the mentors were, which was nice.
Good. Yeah, that's really good. So then what, part of the program and part of the book is that we just want to talk about some of the things that we don't always talk about, the hard stuff that we face both as leaders and just as professionals and that other people are facing. And so what do you feel like was one of the harder things that you had to go through on your path?
I think the decision to step off that treadmill right after with the big firm, that was a huge decision. And honestly, it has really impacted my career since then. And I'm grateful. But it was a tough one because when you're at those big firms, and I don't care if it's law or investment banking or, these big firms with big egos, you get swept up in the ethos of it, right? And you think you're a big person and you think you're on top of the world and you think you're one of the smartest in the room. And you know what? You either are or you aren't, but that's not really that important. But when you're in it, you're in that mindset. And when you step off, my experience was I had a little bit of, adrift at sea. My whole persona,
your identity.
My identity was gone.
Yeah.
And at that point I had being a mother, which was very near and dear. And that was just a different thing. Mm-hmm. So,
but did you feel like, I don't know about you, I would have felt like I lost something, even though you're gaining the time with your children, which mothers want that. Every mother I know treasures that. You still lose something. And, I think that's part of what we're trying to do today in the workforce is to make it easier for women and men to have both their family,
That's right. But you're absolutely right. You felt like you lost a big piece of you. And now what? Mm-hmm.
So did you do things to sort of fill the gap as a mother? What did you do about your brain? Because I have another friend who was high, she's pretty high level in government. And she said, someday I'm going to write a book called The Dumbing Down of Gina, because it was like she left to be a mom. And she was like, now I talk about diapers. And, it's like I have a lot of intellectual capacity and I'm not using it.
Well, I didn't have the ability to just stick with that. So I did I always worked at least part-time, and
That's the thing.
part-time was really only for 2 years. And then it was another, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years maybe 7 years with the entertainment firm. And that was a lower stress. That wasn't a partnership trap
Right.
position. So that was lower stress. So that's probably, I had a job and I was keeping current in the law and I was learning new skills, but it was a lower stress kind of environment. So that's really how I did it. I always marveled at those mothers who could wake up in the morning and say, okay, kids, what are we going to do today? And they have these great ideas of whatever. Like that was never me. So
that was not me either.
My kids never got that, Mom.
No, my kids didn't get that, Mom, and they also didn't get one that cooked. So it was like, don't you have something to do outside? Can't you go play? But there are great. There are moms that was sort of built for that, right? Like, sit down and play with toys all day. And
there are, and I'm really in awe of them.
I am too, because I can't do it. So looking back, though, is there anything you would have done differently?
Look, I think I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So, yeah, there might have been little things along the way that I would have done differently. But I'm really happy with where I am now. And that's to me the most important. And the rest of it's just a learning experience. Mm-hmm. It's learning how to deal with.
Yeah. Your kids, they made it through?
My kids are okay. They're adults and they're working and they're okay. So that's the blessing. They finished college.
That's the win. You won big time, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I know the environment's changed some, but what would you say to other young men or women who are trying to balance their career and also be a parent? Any advice?
I would say it's a couple of things. If you can find a culture, a firm culture or a company culture that is amenable to the parent life, if they understand what's going on, and it's not to say that they're less driven, it's not to say they're less profit oriented, it's to say they're more human, mm-hmm. a little bit more understanding, and have a longer view of what's valuable in employees. I think that's a really good environment to be in. Right. It's helpful. And the other thing is if if you're starting out, if you can somehow become associated in some way with more seasoned professionals who are willing to take you under their wing, don't mm-hmm. have to call it a mentor. It doesn't. We never put mentor labels on these things. It was just somebody who said, come on, we're going to go and we're going to do this. If you can work into a relationship like that, and sometimes you can't really control it. A lot of it's luck. But if you can find that, I think that's really nice.
I think so too. And, there's usually some people willing if you just be curious and ask questions and show that you're interested in being taught.
Absolutely. If you show that you're interested in what they are doing mm-hmm. and you want to help, how is that not fascinating to the more senior?
Exactly.
Right? That's great.
That is great. And, I also want to say, because there will be employers who are reading this, is, we consider the working mom or working parent our gems, because, we can sometimes get them for below market value because we give them more flexibility. And so we get really top talent and we maybe pay just slightly below, but we give them a lot of flexibility to have their children with them. And so as long as it's not interrupting client meetings and they get their work done, I've found that they actually usually produce even more because they're wanting to keep their job, prove that they can do it. And yet, if they need to go take their kid to school in the middle of the day, we don't care.
Well, it's a little bit sexist, but the old adage, if you want to get something done well, you give it to a working mom, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I will say this though, I do have a working dad that has his new daughter at home, and he's the same way. So I think,
That's
just
right.
that desire to be productive and to use your brain in your career. I mean, they're a treasure. And I actually learned that from talk about mentor, from another person who was running a firm. And it was early in my career before I was even running a firm. He was like, working moms are our secret weapon.
Yeah, it's true.
And so when I started a firm, I remembered that, and I started hiring and have had them the whole time. I've been running firms since 2001.
Well, my hat's off to you. Good for you. And that's right. I agree.
Yeah. So for employers out there, pay attention. Well, thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. I really appreciate it. I think this has been a great interview and great advice.
Oh, well, Bonnie, it has been my pleasure. It's good to talk to you about all this. We don't usually get a chance to stop and think about it.
That's
Just
true.
keep going, right?
That's
So
true.
thank you.
Exactly. Well, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. A special thank you to our listeners for taking time to tune in to this week's Real Life, Real Leaders podcast. We hope today's story inspired you. Check out previous episodes on the podcast to hear from more industry leaders, and check back next week as we speak to another leader and hear his or her great stories of triumphs and messy struggles. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate, subscribe, and share. I'm Bonnie Hagemann, and I look forward to sharing more with you next week.